The Gospel of Mark. Jesus on divorce and remarriage. Mark 10, 1-12. Introduction. 1. A serious problem in the world today is that of divorce and remarriage. A. Its effect on children has been well documented by Judith Wallerstein, author of Second Chance. Tickner and Fields, 1988. 1. Almost half of children of divorces enter adulthood as worried, underachieving, self-deprecating, and sometimes angry young men and women. 2. Half grew up in settings in which the parents were warring with each other even after the divorce. Reported in Time, the 2nd of June 1989. B. Parents who divorce are not left unhurt either. 1. A divorce is like an amputation. You survive, but there's less of you. Margaret Atwood. Marriage Partnership, Volume 7, Number 4. 2. Average percentage change in a woman's standard of living the year following a divorce. -73%. Daniel Evan Weiss. The Great Divide, Poseidon Press, 1991. C. As described by God, divorce is a treacherous, violent act. Malachi 2:16. 2. Remarriage after divorce is not without its problems also. A. It does not always heal the wounds inflicted by the divorce. I'm lucky my parents have stayed together. Unlike so many of my friends, I've never had to cry on a holiday. Tales Out of High School, Marriage Partnership, Volume 5, Number 6. B. Many remarriages are unlawful in God's eyes, constituting what Jesus called adultery. 3. While social and psychological effects of divorce and remarriage are serious, it is the spiritual effects that concern me most. A. Too many people are ignorant of what the Bible teaches on this subject. B. Such ignorance leads to quick and easy divorces, and to adulterous marriages that are unlawful. 4. In Mark 10, 1-12, we find Jesus discussing divorce and remarriage. A. Jesus had left Capernaum and was teaching by the Jordan River in the region of Judah. A. His teaching on divorce and remarriage was occasioned by a challenge from the Pharisees. B. He used the opportunity to teach his disciples what people today need to know. He arose from there and came into the borders of Judah and beyond the Jordan. Multitudes came together to him again. As he usually did, he was again teaching them. Pharisees came to him testing him, and asked him, "Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife?" He answered, "What did Moses command you?" They said, "Moses allowed a certificate of divorce to be written, and to divorce her." But Jesus said to them, "For your hardness of heart, he wrote you this commandment. But from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female." Mark 10, 1-6. For this cause a man will leave his father and mother, and will join to his wife, and the two will become one flesh, so that they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. In the house, his disciples asked him again about the same matter. He said to them, "Whoever divorces his wife, and marries another, commits adultery against her. If a woman herself divorces her husband, and marries another, she commits adultery." Mark 10, 7-12, 1. The Pharisees questioned Jesus. A. To test him, not to be taught by him. 1. Divorce was a touchy issue then, even as it is today. 2. Divorce was not uncommon. King Herod. Mark 6:17-18. 3. The scribes were divided over the proper grounds for divorce. A. The school of Hillel taught that a man could divorce for just about any reason. B. The school of Shammai permitted divorce only in the case of fornication. B. Any answer Jesus gave would offend someone. 1. If he took the popular lax view, the Pharisees could deride his claim as a teacher of superior morality. Matthew 5:20. 2. If he upheld the stricter view, he would be unpopular with the majority which the Pharisees could use against him. 2. Jesus' response to the Pharisees. A. He asked what Moses taught. 1. What did Moses command you? Mark 10:3. 2. Moses permitted a man to write a certificate of divorce and to dismiss her. Mark 10:4. 3. They understood Moses to permit divorce if a certificate of divorce was given to the wife. Deuteronomy 24:1-4. Matthew 5:31-4. Yet a careful reading of that passage reveals A. Moses forbid remarrying of a spouse, even if a second husband had died. Deuteronomy 24:4. B. The reason was the woman became defiled when she remarried. Deuteronomy 24:4. C. The word defiled used elsewhere to describe adultery. Leviticus 18:20. Numbers 5:13-14. D. She actually became an adulteress by remarriage despite the certificate. Romans 7:1-3. 5. While they appealed to this passage in divorce and presumably remarriage, it actually described the treachery of divorce. Defilement of the spouse. Matthew 5:32. B. Moses permitted divorce due to their hard hearts. 1. Because of the hardness of your heart he wrote you this precept. Mark 10:5. 2. The Jews at that time were a hardened people. Deuteronomy 9:6-31-27. 3. Is this not a commentary on the state of one's heart when they desire to divorce? A. It takes a hard-hearted person to want to divorce their spouse. 1. Either to divorce arbitrarily for no scriptural grounds. 2. Or to divorce when the guilty person is pleading for forgiveness and reconciliation. B. Of course, that is exactly the condition of those in the world or those in the church who are of the world. Ephesians 4:17-19. C. It was not what God had in mind from the beginning. 1. The permission to divorce was only temporary. Matthew 19:8. 2. From the beginning it was not so. Note carefully. A. The law of Moses, which was temporary, considered the hardness of men's hearts and permitted hard-hearted actions. B. The gospel of Christ, which replaces the law, cures the hardness of one's heart. 1. His grace removes the heart of stone and replaces it with a heart of love. 2. A heart able to abide by God's original design for marriage. 3. Paul made it clear that under normal conditions divorce is not an option. 1 Corinthians 7:10-11. D. Jesus reminded them of their Genesis. 1. But from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. Mark 10:6. 2. It is helpful to keep in mind where we came from, who created us, what we are. 3. For our views on divorce and remarriage will be influenced by our views of ourselves. A. Are we simply animals, compelled by instinct? 1. Unable to control fleshly desires. 2. Then divorce and remarriage ought to be free and easy. B. Or God's highest creation, made in his image. 1. Able to control fleshly lusts to the glory of God. 2. Then divorce and remarriage ought to reflect God's desire for man's holiness. E. He attributed the institution of marriage to God, not man. 1. Notice, it was God who said for this reason. Mark 10:7. Genesis 2:24. 2. Therefore questions about marriage such as divorce and remarriage must be answered by God, not by man nor by man's laws. F. He emphasized that in marriage God creates a union. 1. The two become one flesh. Mark 10:8. Genesis 2:24. 2. They are joined by none other than God himself. G. His conclusion, let not man separate what God joined. 1. What God has joined together, let not man separate. Matthew 19:6. 2. Man has no right to separate what God himself has joined. 3. It is clear that God's intention is that marriage is to be for life. 3. Jesus' teaching to his disciples. A. Divorce and remarriage leads to adultery. 1. Whether the man divorces the wife or vice versa. Mark 10:11-12. 2. Jesus taught the same consequence of divorce and remarriage in Matthew 5:31-32. 3. The one exception. If spouse is put away for fornication. Matthew 19:9. B. The disciples' reaction. 1. They thought it better not to marry. Matthew 19:10. 2. Jesus described celibacy as a viable option if necessary. Matthew 19:11-12. Conclusion. 1. Any divorce must be on the grounds specified by Jesus. A. For marriage is an institution ordained by God. Mark 10:7-8. B. And man must not separate what God has joined together. Mark 10:9. C. The only ground specified by Jesus is fornication. Matthew 19:9. 2. A divorce for any other reason. A. Is an attempt to separate what God has joined together. Mark 10:9. B. Is forbidden by the Lord. 1 Corinthians 7:10-11. C. If a couple divorces, they should remain unmarried or be reconciled. 1 Corinthians 7:11. D. For it will result in adultery if there is a remarriage. Mark 10:11-12. May the Lord bless those with the faith to live according to his word, and may we be diligent in teaching our children what the Bible teaches regarding divorce and remarriage. The end. The Gospel of Mark. Jesus on divorce and remarriage. Mark 10:1-12.